Good evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Leah Hogg, and this is our current affairs update in English. With pleasure, I welcome today the Honourable Claudio Grech. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for the invitation, and welcome to all the spectators on Net TV.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about your new role, a big role within the Nationalist Party. What does it entail?
Right, the Nationalist Party has always been a party which has led the country with a clear vision, and that vision has always been translated into the best policies that were applicable and were relevant for our country at the particular point in time. You go back from when the Nationalist Party was actually established, you'll always see that the Nationalist Party never built its politics around simple gains, simple political gains, a simple win of an election, but has rather built its politics on the basis of a long-term vision for the country and for its people. The Nationalist Party was the party that led this country with a strong leap of faith into independence. The Nationalist Party was the party that brought into this country the open economy, the market economy in the late 80s. But the Nationalist Party was also the party that led the path for the country to become a full EU member state. All this is part of a vision. All this is part of a clear plan where a political party and its leaders have always been on the right side of history. And this is not what we say as politicians, as nationalist politicians, but really as what history clearly sets out for us. At this point in time, the Nationalist Party has been in opposition for the last 7 years, nearly 8, and we are now at a point in time where the leader of the Nationalist Party, Dr. Bernard Grech, has mapped out a clear way forward in terms of where he wants the party to move ahead. And the clear way forward is generally based on one simple direction, a clear socio-economic vision for this country, which is not too far away, which is not too long away, but which people can clearly associate with. And this is why we're saying that at the core of what the party wants to now evolve in is our socio-economic vision, which leads this country into the year 2030. And the leader of the party has entrusted me with the task to shape this vision, to bring together all the players that want to contribute to the shaping of this vision, not only internally, but also externally, together with the help of my colleagues in the parliamentary group and also the other officials of the party, so that we do one very important element, one very important task: the renewal, the evolution of our party policy, which is based on a number of themes, which we're going to achieve, Leah, through 14 clusters, 14 policy clusters, which were launched in June by the former leader of the opposition, Dr. Adrian Dalia, where we had actually established these 14 themes, and now we're taking them forward and doing a very interesting thing that has rarely been done in politics in Malta, where we're opening the policy shaping in these clusters not only to the members of parliament that are today members of the parliamentary group, but also to our new candidates, our young candidates, but also for people who are experts in their own right, in their particular domain, who feel they want to contribute in the political arena. Because, let me tell you this, politics is not just about the people who are in the front line. Politics is not just about the people that are elected to parliament. Politics is not even just about the people who are candidates in a general election, but politics is about the people at large. Over the last weeks, Leah, since the leader of the opposition has entrusted me with this role, I received literally hundreds of messages, hundreds of emails, where people want to be part of this process, where people have an idea, where people have a proposal, where people have a dream of something, of a particular initiative in their own sector, which they want to share with the Nationalist Party. And I believe that the fact that people are forthcoming towards the Nationalist Party is a clear proof that people want to be part, not necessarily of the building, not necessarily of the flag of the party, but really they want to be part of what is at core of the party, and this is our policy for a better Malta, our policy for a country which is built on our core values, or on our traditional values, but is built on the principles of fairness, of equity, of social justice, but even more than that, which clearly takes this country forward. I think the most important element in all of this is that we want to see our country moving forward, generating more wealth, but the more wealth that we generate, the better we have to distribute it to ensure that every single member of our society keeps on moving forward with the country. I close this opening comment with this, Leah. Today we have a situation where when the country was creating wealth, when the country was generating wealth, the more wealth is being created, the more people are being left behind. Today we have 100,000 plus individuals, 100,000 persons who are literally on the verge of poverty. Is that something which we aspire for as a modern state? Is that something that we as politicians should simply accept as like a collateral damage of economic growth? No, we don't. Our vision is based on that each single person, each single household, each single family, irrespective of how that family is formed, has its own aspirations. We want to excite these people to even push further their aspirations, push further their ambitions, irrespective from which part of society, from which background they are coming, if they're wealthy, if they're not, if their parents were educated, if they were not. No, this is what a modern country is all about, where the notion of equal opportunities for all are not just nice words on a billboard, but are put in practice as part of the policy of the PN as an alternative government.
So from what you're saying, all these messages you received, people seem to want a voice and to want a sense of belonging. Is that right?
Absolutely. You know, it clearly shows, first of all, that there is a gap in our political system where due, I would say, to our tribal environment, where you're either red or blue in this country, people just have some fear of association more often than not. People would not want to be part of a political process, of a political party. And I think that is also, to an extent, the downside of our political environment. But our environment is what it is. So the reality is that when we opened up and clearly said, that we don't know it all, one thing that I think politicians tend to suffer from is this syndrome that more often than not they believe, or let's put it this way, we believe that we know it all, that we have the answers to everything, that whatever people ask us, we can clearly give them an answer. The answer is with the people. Yeah. The answer is with, if you're talking about a particular sector, for example, if you're talking about the sports sector, something which I received, I can clearly tell you most of the messages I received were related to people in different areas of sport, literally coming up with ideas on how sport could be a totally new economic pillar for this country. And you have people out there, people willing to give ideas, people who have researched their own ideas, some people who have actually studied and become specialists in their ideas, and also people who studied abroad, who worked abroad or are working abroad, but still feel Maltese and still want to see a better Malta, and still that given a chance, given an opportunity, they would bring back their idea, bring it back in this country, and see that idea possibly also being shared with other people and shared with their own family. And this is what we want to do. You put it just aptly and perfectly, that we want to give a voice to these people. And that voice should not be a mere formality, but that voice is something which clearly is linear between their idea and finding its way into our political agenda. The moment we manage to start diluting the tribal environment we live in this country, I believe that the faster we can accelerate our pace, our path towards a country which has politics which are based on common sense policy, not politics which are based on colors,
yes,
but politics which are based on common sense.
I mean, I congratulate you. It sounds like a pivotal role, really. I mean, it's like you're turning around, renewing, bringing in innovation. So I congratulate you and wish you luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're joined now by somebody who comments quite a lot on this program, Geopolitical Strategist Albert Marko. Good evening, Albert. How are you?
Good, Leah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us again. Would you give us an update on the Trump-Biden situation right now, Albert?
Well, you know, the Trump-Biden situation is the election is over. Biden has won. Right now, what you're seeing is the residual effects of the Democratic Party's fear of how popular Trump has actually become within the ground game, within actually the Democratic Party, not so much just the Republican Party, but the blue-collar workers of the Democratic Party. And actually, I was listening into your guest, and it's almost identical to the United States right now, where you have a battle going on between the protectionists and the globalists. Well, during good times, during good economic times, you know, the globalists are always going to have a little bit of an edge because people like to travel, you know, people like to explore the world, and that, you know, money flows around from all parts of the world. But in this cycle, because we have a little bit of economic strain due to COVID, protectionist policies have come into play, and that is what the appeal is of Trump, and that's what most likely is going to happen within the European Union as nations focus inward to protect their own nations rather than you know, a central government that's you know, thousands of miles away in Brussels.
Mm-hmm. And what's also going on with the case against Trump?
Well, I mean, realistically, you know, this you know, quote unquote impeachment is of a president that's no longer in power, which constitutionally there's not really a precedent for such an event. Most likely, the situation is there's not going to be 60 votes for impeachment. Even if there was, it doesn't prevent Trump from running ever again. It doesn't kick him out of office because he's already out of office. So, I mean, this is more or less a show for the Democratic base voters more than anything else.
So it's a play with politics again. We spoke a lot during this series of programs with other investment bankers about cryptocurrencies. On Bloomberg today, we saw the scam on Stefan Quinn. Could you give us an update of what's going on with that? Can you hear me, Albert?
Oh yes, I can go for Bloomberg. Oh yeah, for cryptocurrencies.
No.
You know, I don't really see.
I'm speaking about the scam and Stefan today on cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies.
I haven't honestly. I haven't really kept up about that one on cryptocurrencies and the scams. I mean, there's so many of them. To be honest with you, Leah, you're talking about. You know, you're talking about individuals that are running hedge funds and taking investor money for cryptocurrencies that are unregulated. The cryptocurrency mining operations are in China, Iran, Russia, God knows wherever. I mean, I don't see what the appeal is of cryptocurrency aside from trying to break away from a centralized government control of finance. Mm-hmm.
And can we just have a quick look at Venezuela? The dynamics of Guaido and Maduro, how is this affecting the rollout of the vaccine for COVID-19?
Well, I mean, Venezuela has such political problems up and down the entire chain of operations within the country. You know, they have nothing. They have no money. They've tried to trade off oil for dirt cheap prices to the Chinese and the Russians. You know, the only vaccines that they're likely to get is from Russia or China in lieu of, you know, further oil contracts in the future. So, I mean, Venezuela is a problem that the United States is most likely going to have to address in the next 4 to 8 years. It's a humanitarian problem. It's a geopolitical problem. It's not going away anytime soon as long as the Chinese and the Russians prop it up.
Sure. The Honourable Claudio Grech is going to pose a question to you. He likened the politics you were talking about with the American politics. So if you could go ahead and ask him your question.
Yes, maybe a question which one would bear out of literally what has been going on in the States over the last few weeks following Biden's election is, what is the sentiment on the ground in terms of populism, you know? So we've seen over the last years that there was a wave of populist politics, which wasn't really only concentrated in the States, but has spread literally globally, you know? So what is your take on the post-Trump era on where this leaves populism in the States?
I believe that populism is only going to gain favor further as long as the economic situation has deteriorated, especially in the United States. These COVID lockdowns, the longer they go, the more permanent job losses that we're facing at the moment. And unfortunately, these are real people with real families that need to be fed, and don't want to hear excuses from politicians in Washington, D.C. They want to see results. They want to see the economy open up. The wave of populism is absolutely not going away. The popularity of Trump is most likely to gain favor so long as the economy doesn't rebound in the time frame that the next elections in 2022 and 2024 happen. You're going to see the same thing happen in the European Union. Malta's not immune to it. Italy's certainly not immune to it. Even the Germans and the Dutch. I mean, you can see this wave of populism is so much as the European Union has tried to quell it, and the Democrats in America have tried to crush it. It just hasn't gone away. It's only gained favor.
Just to close off for today, Albert, just very briefly, around up on the Italian politics, and quite a lot going on there.
Yeah, the Italian politics is political drama for centuries. Very entertaining.
So what about an update on today? What's happening?
I believe that Draghi just was approved by the five-star movement. So most likely Draghi is going to take the reins, in my opinion. He's going to look towards the ECB for loans for Italy. I don't really see the Draghi's government lasting more than 2 years, however. So we'll see what Salvini or Liga and Salvini have in store for him.
Thank you very much. Thank you for tonight, Albert. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
That was Albert Marko, a geopolitical specialist. Very knowledgeable, don't you believe? Very knowledgeable. Just to flip on to something completely different, I'd like to hear a bit more about your foundation, Fondazione, Save a Life.
Yes, this was a project which my wife and I started now 7.5 years ago, where we had this idea of creating a not-for-profit foundation through which we would be running projects and coordinating projects with local NGOs to provide community engagement initiatives for children and youths. It started off as a very, very basic idea, but eventually we shaped it, we formalized it, we structured it, and we brought on a number of people who are part of the council of the foundation, and we brought on a number of partners who help us in the execution of our projects. To date, we have launched 11 projects across most of the localities in my electoral constituency. In terms of funding, I use my parliamentary salary I invest completely my parliamentary salary in these projects, and apart from that we raise additional finance with the idea that we try to go in areas, to go in communities where the sense of civic engagement is rapidly eroding. So what we try to do is find NGOs, find education institutions, find cultural institutions, find sports institutions, team up with them and work with them so that we identify an area where we can invest in a project. We don't do donations, we do projects, we do educational classrooms, we do sports facilities, we do IT labs. The idea is to provide something which the NGO can run over a period of time.
And that sort of thing improves people's lives in the long term.
I don't think it makes miracles, but it does help these NGOs because the people in these NGOs literally put their heart and all their effort into making these organizations work. You would be astonished how many people, how many individuals there are who after their work would actually spend long hours in these organizations like football nurseries, like music academies in band clubs, like youth centers where you have kids from underprivileged families who actually go there for support and assistance in carrying out their homework, because in their own home environment they wouldn't have anyone who could support them. All these initiatives help to contribute that little bit to make the lives of these children and youth better. Our main focus is to try to keep away children and youths from substance abuse. So the core of what we do literally is targeting areas, targeting pockets where we know that unfortunately a number of sometimes children, but more often than not youths, actually end up in a situation where they would resort to substance abuse. In fact, one of the last projects that we have kicked off is a very interesting research project with the Foundation for Social Wellbeing in the university, with the Faculty of Social Wellbeing in the University of Malta, where together we are compiling a detailed study of all the existing data, information, research which has already been done, compiled in one single source about substance abuse by youths, and how youths actually tend to move towards substance abuse and how this data is portrayed in the local community, with the idea that we want to clearly share this information with parents, with youths, with children, with educators, with these NGOs, to try to keep on driving home the message that civic engagement, that participation in the community will help keeping these youths away from substance abuse.
How do you identify these areas? Do people come to you or do you actually look for them?
First of all, there are two primary sources. Data is crucial, so from the official data available and particularly from research which either other organizations or carried out by university students as part of their thesis, you would get a clear understanding of where the problems effectively lie. Most of the areas are known. There are underprivileged areas, particularly in my constituency, which unfortunately have been left to their own devices, for time immemorial. And I believe that we need to, and particularly those of us who are elected from these constituencies, need to literally, voice up for the people who, and the communities and the families who live in these areas. Because ultimately, you will realize that the people that are impacted by this situation, at the end of the day, are part of our community. And we have an obligation to actually support them.
Do you believe the party has become the voice of the underprivileged?
I think we need to do more in that direction. I think both political parties tend to talk about big numbers. They talk about economic growth. We talk about millions and billions, and we talk about very, very big figures when in effect, you will realize that people living in these underprivileged areas couldn't associate with such rhetoric. And in reality, a little support for these areas, a little improvement for these areas, some investment in terms of the urban environment, the educational facilities in this area would go a very, very long way to improve the quality of life of these people and to fuel further social mobility. I think the key to addressing these situations is to invest as much as we can in social mobility.
Thank you very much. That was very informative. Should anyone wish to contact you, either to do voluntary work or because they're in need of some help, how do they get through to you?
They can contact us on our Facebook page, either my political page or my private page, or via the contact details that are found on the website of the party itself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for watching once again tonight. I'll be with you next week at the same time. Keep your comments, queries coming in, and we'll address them during this program. On behalf of the Honourable Claudio Grech and myself, I wish you a good evening.